Okay, so let's go ahead and work together on these last two problems where we're solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Remember on problem number 11 here, we want it to be set equal to 0. So let's first do that. If we subtract 3 from both sides, we will get it set equal to 0. Now our quadratic formula, I'm going to write up here, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's go ahead and label our a's, b's, and c's. So here, our a is the number in front of the v squared, so it's a 4. The b is the number in front of the v, so it's a negative 7. And the c is the number completely by itself, so it's the negative 3. Plugging these numbers into the quadratic formula, we have negative b, so negative 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 3, all over 2 times a, which is 4. Let's go ahead and start to simplify. Remember that we start with the square root part. So 7 squared is 49. 4 times 4 is 16. Times a negative 3. So we have a negative times a negative. It's going to end up being positive. And 16 times 3 is 48. So we will go ahead and continue from here. We have x equals a negative 7 makes a positive 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 plus a 48 makes a 97. All over 2 times 4, which is 8. Thinking of numbers that perfect squares inside of 97, 1 times 97, 2 times nothing because it's an odd number, 3 times nothing, 4 times nothing. We can keep going. There are no perfect squares inside of 97. So believe it or not, this is your final answer. If you don't like writing it like this, you can break it up into 2 separate answers. So you're going to get x equals 7. Sorry, that's a bad looking 7. X equals 7 plus the square root of 97 over 8. And x equals x equals still a positive 7, but a minus sign here, the square root of 97 all over 8. So you can write it together as one answer or separately as 2 answers. All right, Algebra 1 students, this is your last problem on your last set of notes before spring break. For this problem, we want to get it set equal to 0. So our first step is to subtract 7n from both sides. We're going to end up with n squared minus 10n minus 14 equals 0. Writing my quadratic formula. You might have written it so many times by now that you actually have it memorized. Let's go ahead and label our a's, b's, and c's. So a is 1, the number in front of n squared. B is negative 10. C is negative 14. So we have x equals negative from the quadratic formula, then negative 10 because our b is negative 10, plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times our a, which is 1, times our c, which is negative 14, all over 2 times a. Hopefully you remember by now you're doing the square root first. So negative 10 squared is 100. And 4 times 14, negative times a negative makes a positive 56. So simplifying what we have so far, a negative 10 becomes a positive 10 plus or minus the square root of 156 all over 2. Now let's try to figure out numbers that multiply to give us 156. So I always like to see if numbers are divisible by 4, because 4 is a perfect square. 4 times 39 gets us 156. So 4 is a perfect square. Let's see if we can break 39 into anything with perfect squares. It's not divisible by 9 or 16 or 25. So that's as far as we can go. So we're going to rewrite our answer here as x equals 10 plus or minus, instead of the square root of 156, we're going to write the square root of 4 times the square root of 39. And it's all over 2. But what is the square root of 4? The square root of 4 is just 2. So we have x equals 10 plus or minus 2 square root of 39 all over 2. What do you notice that all of these numbers have in common? They're all even, right? They're all divisible by 2. So our final step here, we can divide those numbers by 2 to get x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 39. That is our final answer. If you don't like writing it as one answer, you can write it as x equals 5 plus the square root of 39 and 5 minus the square root of 39. Hopefully these notes helped you review the concepts that we learned in Chapter 9. Your task for this week is, after you've watched these videos, you want to work on our review worksheet. I do expect you to show work and actually read the instructions and solve each problem using the method that it tells you to use. Once you do that, you can also go to our Pearson Realize assignment and work on that assignment, 9.1 to 9.6 review, homework number 50. And keep in mind that Block 4 and Block 7, I am having live meetings with you. You can check your Schoology pages to see what day and times those meetings are, but please do your best to log into those meetings so we can all collaborate and discuss together. If you've already done those live meetings and this is your last thing you're hearing from your math teacher before spring break, I want to wish you a safe, happy, and healthy spring break. Please make good choices and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns over spring break. I will be in contact with you as soon as I am able to construct a plan once I am told if we are going to be moving back to school after spring break or if we will continue doing digital learning after spring break. I appreciate your patience and your flexibility as we navigate distance learning together.